Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome to yet another edition of Rob's Little Blue Book, and I'm really excited about this week. I kind of went down a rabbit hole this week. I was going to do the back bacon sandwich, which I'm going to push off a week because while I was surfing around the internet, I came across some steak drama, some steak sauce drama, and I love steak and I love preparing steak, and I'm always researching different ways to serve it and prepare it. So I stumbled across this thing. I think it's going to be really fun for tonight, and we'll get into the story in just a little bit. But first, let's do the cocktail tonight. So tonight we're going to do a variation of the Manhattan. I really like Manhattans in the winter. It's a nice, smoky, comforting drink. But you can mix it up once in a while and do something different. So this one's called the Waldorf. Invented, of course, the Waldorf Hotel in... It's New York, right? Somebody correct me, but pretty sure it's New York. So it's a very straightforward drink to make, but I want to talk about the cool thing. We haven't done a cool thing in a little while, and as well as researching steak, I was also researching jiggers, or ways to measure alcohol for when you're a bartender. And I came across these things, which they didn't have these when I was a bartender. These are they're probably not new, but they're from Japan. It's a Japanese jigger. And these things are fantastic. Because it's nice and tall. So it's 2 ounces. It's 2 ounces on the top, 1 ounce on the bottom. And you probably can't see, but on the inside, you really can see. But anyway, trust me, it's very visible. Is a 1.5 ounce mark, just partway down on the inside. And on this side, there is a 3/4 and a 1/2. It's way easier to see than it looks, and because of the tall, narrow design, it's really, really easy to get very accurate measurements out of this. And maybe you don't care, but for certain drinks, the measurements are important. So we're gonna use the cool thing tonight, and let's build this guy. So this is just it's a stirred drink, because again we're using all clear alcohol. Also, we're gonna use absinthe tonight. And there's a couple different ways to use absinthe. I actually don't mind the taste. Like, this is a very strong flavor. I actually don't mind a little bit of it, like more than a little bit of absinthe in my drink. But if you still want the taste of absinthe and you don't want it overpowering your drink, you can simply rinse your glass with it. I'm not going to do that tonight because I said I like the flavor, so I'm just going to put a little mixing in the jug. And in fact, tonight we're absinthe. You want to go to the cooking cam? There we go. Absinthe rye, and yeah, well, Darcy will do that like on the next Lizzie McGuire night. I'm using Dylan's rye tonight. I really like this. It's local. It's made in Canada. It's a really nice rye. And then, of course, we're using sweet vermouth. Now, the original recipe was actually equal parts of both, which is just like a boatload of absinthe, and I like it, but that would be just crazy strong. And over the years, it has evolved into the measurements that, yeah, I know. It's evolved in the measurements that I'm going to use tonight, which are 2 ounces of rye, and we want 3/4 of an ounce of sweet vermouth. Now I'm just gonna tip a tiny little bit of absinthe on top of this, but as I said, if you're not huge on this flavor, you can simply rinse your glass with it. I've seen bartenders that they have like a little mister, like a little spray mister, and they'll just spray the inside of the glass. I don't have one, but it sounds like a cool idea, doesn't it? And that's it. Let's give this a stir. So stirring drinks is actually harder ironically than shaking them. You do want to stir this drink and get it cool. I think we talked last week all about ice and dilutions and all that stuff, so. Very cool. Give it just one more sec. Oh, forgot. Manhattan isn't a Manhattan without a couple dashes of bitters. I'm just using Angostura bitters for this, which is a classic. You could use orange bitters or DSB bitters or really whatever you like. But I think for a Manhattan and the variants, just the classic is fine. Again, this is one of those things I would stir into or straight into a coupe glass if I had one. I don't yet. So I'm using my, whatchamacallits, the Dorothy Thorpe ones. Cheers, everybody. And it's really good. This tastes like, it tastes like a Manhattan that somebody stirred black licorice into. It's nice. It's really strong though. Okay, I'm gonna set that one down. This is not a cocktail you need to drink quickly, so I'm not going to. But I will sip it over the course of the evening. Any questions on the Waldorf? Pretty straightforward, guys. So let's talk about a little bit of story here. And as I said, I had not made the steak sauce before, but I was researching ways to make steak, present steak. There was a restaurant in France, and there's more than one, there's about 5 or 6 of them. They're a chain called Le Relais de l'Entrecôte, and I know I killed the pronunciation there. And I don't, like, l'entrecôte is a cut of beef, and I don't even know what relay means. It just means relay. Like, I ran this through Google Translate, and it just said relay the beef. I'm sure I'm missing something in that translation, but that's what I got. Anyway, they only serve one thing, steak frites. Oh, they have a little salad at the beginning, which I didn't look too much at because it was green. I'm allergic to it. So they sell only one thing, steak frites. That's their thing. And they have this amazing, legendary green sauce that they put on the steak that's supposed to be amazing. And in 2010, another chef hired away one of the chefs from the restaurant, and they basically copied, and some say improved, and some say whatever. Anyway, they stole the sauce recipe, and they got sued, and it's still an ongoing lawsuit, and they sued for $1 million in damages. So I figured if it's worth $1 million, it's definitely worth trying. People line up like around the block all the time for this place, so it must have something going for it. By the way, l'entrecôte in English is ribeye. So let me just show that guy off. Got a nice ribeye steak here. Okay, so let's talk about ingredients because there's a lot in this thing. So the sauce recipe is secret. Nobody except the people in the family, it's a family-run restaurant, but people over, and I went to a million different pages. I got a good use out of Google Translate because most of them are in French. And I've tried to recreate what I think and what everybody else seems to think is in it. The only thing I don't have here that I saw some account, travel blogger, vlogger, whatever, was there, and she was begging the waitress who was serving them just to give her like one ingredient from the recipe. And finally, the waitress just whispered to her marrow, like bone marrow, which makes perfect sense, but I couldn't get marrow bones. So that part, and I didn't see marrow mentioned anywhere else in all of the research that I did. I saw it mentioned nowhere else. There's a guy in Paris who spent 20 years trying to recreate this recipe. So a lot of what we're doing tonight is based off his work. So cheers to him. I don't have 20 years, so we're going to go with more or less with what he thinks is the right thing. So let's talk about the ingredients. I could actually zoom in on the ingredients. Yeah, look at that. I've never tried that before. Okay. Cool. Okay. Not a lot of light though, is there? Okay. We have, starting here, these are 2 sage leaves. This is roughly a tablespoon of tarragon. This is 5 walnut halves. The 6th half got smashed and fell on the floor. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. It would normally be chervil, which is not available fresh in Canada as far as I can tell. So we're going to use parsley. It's a perfectly fine substitute. Oh, the zoom looks good? I'm happy. I've never even considered to do that before. I'm going to have to work on that. I wonder if I can get a remote to like... Anyway, getting distracted. I got two basil leaves here. roughly a tablespoon and change of shallots, 5 capers, 4 anchovies, and a partridge in a pear tree. No, I'm kidding. We got a little Worcestershire sauce here, and over here, that's an egg yolk and some Dijon mustard. So Dijon mustard is in this sauce for 2 reasons. First of all, it tastes amazing, but mustard also will help the sauce emulsify. Although you'll see as we go, we don't actually. Anyway, it's weird. You'll see when we get to we talk about techniques in this. This one seems really bizarre. But let's talk a little bit about this guy here. Nutmeg and nutmeg and mace. So they're parts of the same plant. This sort of golden brownish stuff on the outside is mace, and I've never cooked with it, but it just comes off. It's a really mild, fragrant flavor, but honestly, I don't know what to do with it. It's not something that comes up in any cooking that I've ever done. So I'm going to set that aside. And this is the nutmeg. So nutmeg is not a nut or a meg. There's it's a seed, and there's one in here which we have to get out, which is going to be loud probably. There you go. There is your nutmeg seed. It looks just like that guy right there. And we are going to grate up. You can just use like a microplane grater or whatever you have. Don't buy ground nutmeg, by the way. Nutmeg loses its fragrance and potency within hours, so you always want to have like fresh nutmeg. And you just, well, that's going everywhere, isn't it? See if I can just a little lower the ground here. And it just, you can see it just grates up on the microplane. And I want about a teaspoon, which is actually a lot of nutmeg, so see how that goes. But that seems about right. Put that aside. This way. That's our last ingredient is nutmeg, so I've covered all of the ingredients. So what we're going to do tonight, oh, and the frites. So, French fries, frites. Frites are like small, they're like McDonald's size. Frites are McDonald's size fries. Now I've par fried these, so every time you do fries, whenever you do fries, you fry them twice. You put them in for, ideally, you do the first fry around 330 degrees Celsius for about 3 minutes or until they're about this color. And then your next fry you do at a much higher temperature. So my fryer only has one temperature, so I learned how many fries to put in it to drop the temperature to where I want, and then it comes back up to the second fry. Speaking of which, I should plug that guy in. We don't need that right away. So that's the frites part. So I took the liberty of doing the first fry earlier today. Okay. Get this. Excuse me. And then we are going to fry off the steak, and we're going to try this sauce. So let's go through the methodology. And again, this is one of those experiment with Rob nights. Sometimes I do things for you guys that I've done a million times. And sometimes I just want to try out stuff with you guys because it's fun. So let's go through this and see where we get to. I'm going to take the zoom off. Problem is, every time I touch the camera, ooh, that's way too close. How's that? We can see again. Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do is get a flame. Don't want a crazy flame for this one. Oh yeah, the other ingredient, sorry, the star of the show. Totally forgot, butter. I got half a pound of butter here. Because it's French cooking, right? So half a pound is the bare minimum. I don't think there's any French recipe that starts with less than half a pound of butter. So not all the butter in the beginning. We're going to saute the shallots in this right now. But you don't want all the butter in for that. And we're actually sauteing. We want the shallots to just get translucent. We don't want any color on them at all. So we're gonna do that. Any questions so far? By the way, I am allergic to walnuts, so I'm hoping that by cooking them down a little bit, I'm not that allergic. But I want to try the I want to try the original ingredient sauce before I modify it. Okay, I know this looks good for you guys, but I got to bring this closer to me so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, great. My endlessly useful bench scraper. Well, I mean, it's not like I'm doing this solo. You got 911 on speed dial, or is 911 already speed dial by definition? I don't know. So we just want like a couple of minutes like this. Again, we don't want any color on these at all. We're just kind of sweating them a bit. Okay. Smells good. I wish you guys could smell my place with all these fresh herbs. It just smells amazing in here. A little bit too much heat there. Okay, that's kind of where I want to be. I hope you guys can see. This is more or less exactly the right amount of, I'm not going to touch the zoom again. I'll figure a way to do that remotely later, but this is exactly the right amount of color that I want on these guys. So now you just add the rest of the butter. And in fact, we're going to add a lot of ingredients here. So butter goes in. We want the walnuts in. Want our capers in. Our anchovies. Tarragon. Parsley. And the thing is, actually, it just all goes in here. And finally, the nutmeg. So what we don't want to do though here, so we just want to melt the butter. We do not want to cook these herbs at all. So I just want to get this to the melted point, and then we are going to move on to the next step, which means we're going to blitz it in our little mini chop here. Which you guys can't see, but I've got it right here. And again, this doesn't need to get super hot. We're not cooking this. We just really want to melt the butter. Maybe infuse the flavors just like a little bit. Almost there. Okay, I'm gonna give this just like another few seconds on some heat, just to let the herbs release their oils a bit without actually cooking. Give it a sec. All right, what do you guys think? Looks pretty decent. Gotta get an overhead light, I think, here. Okay, so we actually have a couple things to do. How am I going to do this? I need this thing for two things. Okay, let's blitz this first. Hope you guys can see okay. Let's move this guy here. Okay. So again, my indestructible mini chop. You could do this, obviously you could do this with an immersion blender. You could put it in a blender itself. My blender is huge, and this is just not enough sauce for the blender, so I'm just gonna use this guy. I'm gonna, give me 2 seconds guys, I'm just gonna shut the mic for a sec. Okay, we're back. You want to process this till it's pretty fine. I have a feeling that we are there. So I'm just going to pour this off into another container. Yeah, it looks great. Very hot. Ow. Okay, so that is the first step. So next, we use the egg and the mustard go in. And basically, it looks like kind of what we're doing is making like a mayonnaise from it. So I'm gonna get this going. And the Worcester, of course, you could probably use balsamic vinegar here as well if you don't have Worcester kicking around, but I do, so there you go. Just do that quick little blend. So both egg yolks, of course, and mustard are emulsifiers. And the idea is we're going to make an emulsified sauce here. And I know this works. I've made mayonnaise in this before. So let's hope it whips up. I really don't want to have to do this by hand. Okay, hang on a second, guys. Let's see where we get to. We're not getting there. All right. We are going to have to use the big blender after all, I think. This guy just does not have the horsepower to do what we want to do. So excuse me for a sec. Blender, get down the monster. And we'll do it old school. Okay, let's try that again. It's better actually blend up. Okay. See where we get to now. Too many things out. Okay. Okay, again, I'm gonna just mute the mic for a sec because this is a really loud blender. I'm back. We are not emulsifying here. Frustrated. All right. Excuse me, guys. I'm gonna try one more thing. So this isn't the end of the world. It's more of a texture thing. The flavors are all gonna be there. However, I do have another option. And I suspect that adding an egg yolk, first of all, is going to help, so we're going to do that. I don't have it in me tonight to do this by hand, so I'm really hoping that an egg yolk is going to help here. You guys can see what I'm doing here? Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna have to go to method 3. As I said, the appliances are just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger as we do this. Time to break out the stand mixer. Pretty sure everybody's got one of these. More than one way to skin a cat, right guys? Let's get all this goodness out of here. All right. So this could actually take I've done it this way too. This takes a little longer. So let's just, yeah. Hopefully we don't have to get there. So, hey, I'm probably killing you guys. Alright, I turn the mic back on. We are move this out of the way. It's slowly coming up to consistency. It's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to enjoy my cocktail. If there's any questions, I'm really glad I'm not doing this by hand. I've never had mayonnaise take this long to make. Guys, I can see now. You guys can't see it, but it is slowly thickening up. Okay, kind of where we want to be. Yeah, okay. So you can see we have like a nice emulsified consistency of the sauce now. Now here's the weird thing about this sauce. I said it was going to be weird, and it is weird. What we're going to do now is we're going to take about 2/3 of this sauce, and we're going to put it back on the heat and reduce it. And if you guys have ever made hollandaise before, you will know right away that that is going to break this sauce. This sauce is going to separate on the heat, and apparently that's okay. Which just seems totally bizarre to me, but this is the way it's done, so here we go. So again, what we want to do is we want to concentrate the flavor. Oh, actually, it looks really good. So some of the recipes I saw stopped at this step. They didn't do this reduction thing. However, when I looked at all the videos of people actually eating this dish, you can see that the sauce is broken. Like it's like it looks like somebody screwed up a béarnaise sauce. It's weird. But I am not one to argue with lineups around the block, so they must know something that I don't. So the final steps here, guys, we're going to reduce this down probably by 1/3, I'm thinking. And we're going to constantly stir it because I don't really want to cook the eggs in here. If I accidentally cook the eggs in here, it's not the end of the world. It's funny, it's really thickening up nicely. And then we're going to mix it back in with an unbroken sauce, and that's going to be our finished sauce. And if anybody has any questions about this, I'm happy to try and answer them, but this is all new to me too. But it looks like it's doing exactly what I want it to do. Yeah, we're going to give this another, just a couple minutes here. It's too hot. And you can see this. You can see the sauce is separating now. It's losing its emulsification. Well, the other thing I want to do is, when this is done reducing, we're going to cool it. I want to stop cooking it, so I got this pot of water here. Which I'm going to use. And for a simple sauce, you know, I probably now use just about every single appliance that I own. Oh, it smells absolutely amazing. I'm not putting lemon in this one. A few of the guesses at the recipe suggested lemon, but only a couple, so I'm kind of going with the general consensus here. Okay, that's reduced enough. So now we just want to stop the cooking here, so it's going to go in the water bath. Doesn't take long. Just want to cool it a little bit. So normally, yes, except for the drill press. That's right. But that's in the other room, and it also weighs about 300 pounds. It's not the kind of thing that, hi Penny, it's not the kind of thing that I can easily move around. Okay. So this is cooled down. So guys, normally I would be tasting this as I went, correcting for flavors and whatnot. But honestly, I don't know what it's supposed to taste like, and I kind of want to wait till the end, until it's like on the beef, and taste it all at once with you guys. So this will be like a mystery until the end for all of us. And this is thick. Look, okay, so I don't know if you guys can see, but this has now gone to a paste, which is exactly what I wanted. I'm not quite sure why it took that extra little bit of time just to sit there, but this is perfect. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, so this gets mixed in. Yep, that looks like it's exactly like it's supposed to. Really happy with this now. And just, everybody knows this, I said this, yeah, exactly. It was not easy to move here. Serena and I had a hell of a time just getting it into my office. I said this before, the way I cook, and I know I've got a huge sink of dishes here. I don't do that when I cook at home, guys. I clean as I go, as you should too. It's really easy, and it just makes the end of your night so much more pleasant. And I'm gonna put this in, I think, a measuring cup. I can make some space here. Yep, that's the consistency is, guys, this is exactly what I was looking for. Speaking of looking for things, what do I do with my, oh, I'll use this one. Okay. Now for the fun part. We get to make a steak. So there you go, guys. This is, switch back. L'entrecôte green sauce, and I'm gonna mix it up just a little bit before we dress the steak with it, but that is basically it. This is, it looks exactly like all of the preparations I saw, so I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out for a first shot at it. Clean up here. Deep fryer's on, we don't need the hammer thing anymore. And we're gonna use, tell you guys a funny story. Most of you already know the story. This is the world's most seasoned cast iron pan. This belonged originally to a friend of ours, Nick, who used to live here actually, and he left it behind. So he was really interested in getting a cast iron pan, and I told him how to get it, and then he asked if there was anything he needed to do before he used it. We told him, you know, how to season a cast iron pan. It's a little bit of a process. You gotta, you know, coat it in oil and put it in the oven for an hour and let it cool, and do that a few times, whatever. Anyway, we talked to him about 6 to 8 months later, much later, and he said he was basically giving up on it because it was just too much of a pain in the ass to use. I was kind of like, what do you mean? It's like, it's a cast iron pan, dude. Like, there's no secret to it. It turns out he was seasoning, he was going through the initial seasoning process every time he used it. So this thing has just been seasoned within like an inch of its life, and it's an amazing cast iron pan, and I never would have done what he did, but I'm glad that he did. So anyway, we're gonna get this up. This steak's actually gonna take a little while. We can talk about the steak because we have time. So this is a ribeye, and I got this at Farm Boy actually, and I had to. So if you're at a regular supermarket butcher, and Farm Boy is definitely a cut above, they have pretty good meat there. But the steaks in the window are always going to be, hey Rebecca, the steaks in the window are going to be cut too thin. Like they were like only this thick in the window, which is which is useless for a steak. You're never going to be able to cook it properly. So I had the guy cut an extra piece. They will do that for you if you ask. 1.5 inch is the minimum for a steak. Unless you're doing Wagyu, which we'll do another stream. It's a totally different process. But for regular beef, this is where you want to be. And I'm going to get a timer. And in terms of cooking steak, we've done a couple of steak cooking episodes, but I'm going to just reiterate, there's a million different ways to do it. All you want to do is get a good crust and have your steak cooked through the center to the way you like it done. And for me, that's medium rare. It doesn't matter whether you could start your steak in the oven at 200 and let it come up to like 110 degrees and then sear it in the pan at the end. You can sear it in the pan at the beginning until you have a nice crust, and then you can put it in the oven. You could put the entire steak in a sous vide bag and bring it up to temperature over the course of like 4 hours and then sear it off at the end. It does not matter. I wouldn't sear a steak and then sous vide it. So it kind of matters in that, but anyway. However, if you want the easiest way to cook a steak, which doesn't doesn't sacrifice a whole lot of the doneness, is put it in a hot pan and just turn it over every 2 minutes, which is exactly what we're going to do here until the inside is the way you like. And the reason you want to do it this way, or the reason this is a good way to learn when you're first cooking steak, is it's idiot-proof. You just keep turning it over. The only thing you sacrifice is, and you'll see when we cut into it, your crust and your cooked, well done section will go down about 1/8 of an inch. It won't be pink from top to bottom with a nice crust on it. That's not that big a deal. So, but this is actually going to take some time because it's a nice beefy thick steak. All right, any questions? Feel like we're moving through okay. It's only, it's 20 to 8. Okay. Then I'm going to have to mix up the, let me put on the, you guys can watch the steak cooking, the new food cam. It's going to get very smoky in here. I'm thinking maybe next time I will, so the food, you guys can't see, but the food cam is like, it's like right here, practically directly over the frying pan. I'm going to back it up just a bit. But basically what I have here is a whole bunch of grease and smoke and bits going directly up into a very expensive camera, which does have a filter on the lens, but it's making me like a little bit nervous. I'm going to come off to the side here just a bit. Alright. Anyway, that's released nicely. And look at beautiful crust on that. I hope you guys can see that. And we're just going to keep doing that. Now, this one was out on the counter. You guys should all have one of these. It is a instant read thermometer. This is a very expensive one, but the technology, this is very old. The technology has made it to that dirt cheap stage, so no excuse for not having one of these. And you guys can't see this, but maybe you can. So we're only 77 degrees in the middle. This thing's still room temperature, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And in fact, what I may do is prep the oven, or it's just going to get too smoky in here. One of the disadvantages of a very small apartment and kitchen is I don't have a full exhaust hood set up. Other disadvantage, so it's not a disadvantage, but if you're used to cooking thin pieces of steak, it can be a bit of a switch moving to a thicker piece. You almost have to treat it like a roast. So we'll see. Any questions on cooking steak? I normally do strip loin, so I mean, I really bought the ribeye because it was the restaurant's named after the cut of meat, so they must know what they're talking about. Plus that. Okay. All right. We might go like another minute on each side, and then I'm gonna pop this in the oven so we don't smoke everybody out here. You guys can see we are still pretty low in the middle. We'll be getting better at the edges, but still, we're nowhere where we need to be here. Yeah, that's a good idea. If you want to come out and open the front one, Serena, the draft will help a lot. Okay, so this is the perfect crust. I don't want it any darker than that. So this is going in the oven in just a sec. So it's just going in now. Okay. Ooh, that's hot. Yeah, I forgot about that part of doing steak in the apartment. So I guess the question is, when should we check it? I'm guessing I'm going to check it in about 4 minutes. So we'll see where we're at in 4 minutes. Yeah, do that. Let's go there. Yeah, you guys can't see it here, but actually maybe you can. There's a lot of smoke in our apartment right now. However, these are the sacrifices we make, right? Okay, so we have a bit of time. If you had a question about anything really, well, cooking, I guess, now would be a good time to ask, because we have a few minutes where we just kind of relax. So I'm going to relax and drink my beer. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. The lawsuit has not been resolved, but it's interesting. So, oh yeah, we can talk a little bit about the other restaurant is Bistro Régent, which has now eclipsed the original restaurant. They have 27 locations versus 7. And their sauce is fully emulsified. So they took the original recipe, or the base recipe, and they modified it. And I don't know, nobody knows what their I mean, all these sauces are basically Café de Paris sauces, but they keep theirs fully emulsified, which they think is better. So it's more like, it's almost like a hollandaise kind of thing. Maybe I'll try that one next, but I wanted to try the original tonight to see how it goes. We're going to need this to cut. And we'll put steaks always have to rest after they come out of the oven. So we'll take the steak out of the oven, we'll let it rest for a few minutes while I finish the fries, and then we will eat it up, see how good it is. Food camera seems to be doing okay. I know you guys are worried. Okay, so we're almost ready to check this out. Thermometer. Okay, I'm actually going to check it now after 3 minutes because I really don't want to overcook this. It won't be ready yet, but but it's ready, I can tell. Yep. I'm glad I pulled it when I did. Sometimes, look at the crust on that. Wow. Careful, Rob. Okay, I'm not going to do that yet. I can go back. Okay, this looks amazing. I hope you guys can, oh, here, I'll switch to the food cam in just a sec. So ribeye has, you can see here, ribeye has a huge piece of fat right through the center here, which is completely rendered away. So I actually have two separate pieces of meat here. But I still want to slice it across the grain, so what I really want to do is flip this guy over to see the other side. It's very hot. There we go. You can see the huge piece of fat there. Awesome. Okay, let's get the fries down, and then we can taste this guy. Kind of excited about this. Fries are down. This is my fry bowl. Which you'll see in a sec. Cool thing from our previous week was our carving fork, which I have completely fallen in love with. I never thought I needed one of these until I had it, and I use this all the time. Very happy with it. I'm now cold in here. Okay. Sometimes it gets, well, the window opens to get hot, but I'll tell you, in this kitchen is a very small kitchen, and it gets upwards of 30 degrees in here sometimes. This just smells amazing. I'm really happy. The fries are crisping up. So for, by the way, for presentation, what we're going to do, we're going to take the steak and we're going to slice it, and then arrange the slices and pour the sauce over top. So the plates haven't been in the oven, and they haven't been in the oven for a reason. So first of all, they're pretty warm already because it's hot in here. But when you're serving like a hollandaise or any sauce that can break, you got to be careful when you serve it on a hot plate, because even that little bit of extra heat can cause the sauce to break. There's nothing worse than serving hollandaise, like, you know, beautiful eggs Benedict, and the hollandaise runs off the side onto the hot plate and then just turns back into like this greasy pool of butter. Not nice. Fries are done. Okay, these are actually done. So this is our fry bowl. Let's go back to the food cam. There we go, guys. Got a really nice color on these fries. Just toss them with a bit of salt. Okay, so the fries are ready to go. Let's see how the steak looks. Oh, that one's a little bit well done. No, it's perfect. Okay, great. This will pink up in just a sec. So this hasn't rested quite as long as I would normally let it rest because I don't want to keep you guys waiting forever. But as I said before, steaks are like babies. They'll pink up after a few minutes when they're fresh out of the oven. Let's see if we get some good color here. This is definitely probably going to be more medium than I had in mind, but it still looks really good. Switch places here. Let's get, you guys can see that. Yeah, let's see, it's not bad. A serving of fries. Okay, I'm going to prepare 2 plates because I want to take one into... Actually, maybe I'll just do the taste test first because that can rest a little bit longer. Let's do that. Our amazing sauce, I hope. We'll see. And this just gets like slathered on. Okay. What do you guys think? Let's see if I can get in a little zoom in on that. Just there you go. And you can see the steaks pinking up. That's actually medium rare. It's perfect. Sometimes when you cut into like babies in the oven, no, definitely not babies in the oven. But I'm really happy with this, the color of the steak. Sometimes when you cut into it, so this didn't rest, probably could have gone like another 4 or 5 minutes resting. And then if I'd cut into it in 5 minutes, it would have been this color. But you can see now. Okay, anyway, enough talking about it. Let's see what it tastes like. We're back to the food cam here. Get a good sampling of sauce in this guy. Wow. It's really rich. Tastes amazing. Because the herbs don't get cooked, they're fresh and bright. Wow. Yep. Okay, very happy. I would definitely make this again. It's just, well, I mean, let's face it, herbs and butter and everything else, it's amazing. But, wow. I'm really, I understand why the lineups are like down the block. I don't know how, oh, fries are good. I don't know how accurate this recreation is. I've never tasted the original, but I gotta say that is something else. So I'm just gonna, give me 2 seconds guys, I'm gonna cut some up for Serena. Maybe not that giant fatty bit. Let's try the other end I guess. And get her a plate. Actually, just a plate. So any questions? I'm really, for something that I have never tried before, there are a couple things like, I definitely want to try the emulsified version. I think that would be really good too. I'm going to work on it. This is something I am definitely going to work on and play with and kind of make my own. Right away I'm thinking that I would add, so there's no salt called for in any of the recipes that I saw. Now that could be because in French cooking they just assume that you do that. I would definitely add some salt to this. But in the meantime, Wow. Excuse me, just one sec, guys. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I would definitely, in fact, I'm gonna just for my own, as I'm eating here, I'm gonna give myself a little bit of salt here. We'll see if that picks it up just a bit. Actually, I think it was okay before. It's very rich. No, it's crazy good. I'm a huge fan of this. I'm definitely gonna play with it. I could see punching up the herbs a bit. Like not the tarragon or the sage. So apparently the tarragon is the signature flavor of this green sauce. Crazy. So I wouldn't add more of that, but I think a little more of the parsley. Chervil is a little, yeah, I salted the fries pretty heavily. I like a lot of salt on my fries. So it may be affecting my taste of the steak. Chervil is more assertive than parsley. So I basically used as much parsley as I saw other people using for chervil. I think that I would use a little more parsley next time. But it's very close, like, we're talking minor tweaks here. Yeah. I'm gonna have one more bite, and then we can talk about it a little bit. Crazy. Okay, guys. That's kind of what I want to show you tonight. And you can see the sauce breaking down on the plate, and it's supposed to do this. And I have a feeling, honestly, like, even when I try the emulsified version, that it's going to break down from the heat of the steak. Not sure. Like, it's a steak dish with béarnaise. Steak Oscar or something like that. Another classic steaks presentation, which is served with, like, béarnaise on top, which is just hollandaise with, what is it? Béarnaise, anybody? Tarragon? I think a béarnaise is just hollandaise with tarragon, which actually probably makes it pretty close to this. Anyway, for another time. I don't have a lot else to show you guys tonight. I'm gonna stick around for a couple minutes and have my steak. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of this. Very happy. So, all right, guys. As I said, I'm gonna stick around for just a couple minutes, but that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for showing up, spending the time with me. I really appreciate it. I love doing this for you guys. I like hanging out with you. It's just a good time around. So, next week, don't have a plan yet. I may go back to the back bacon thing because I wanted to do that this week. And that's just such an amazing sandwich. And I really want to experiment with brines, but I have to make sure that I have enough time to do that. Because they get brined and cured over a couple of days. So, we'll see. But I promise you, whatever we do next week will be fun. I always have a good time. I hope you guys do too. So I'm going to sign off. Everybody have an amazing evening, and I'll see you next week.